Set this dog loose.
Stay strong. Concrete in the dirt I was raised on.
Oh.
I know how to put in work. Grinding all day, you know it's game on. My skin is thick, yeah, it's tough. Running, yeah, we stay alive. Ain't gotta look nowhere else.
Woo! My goodness, Dave. Episode 25. Yeah. On All About the Grind.
Yes, sir.
As I drop paperwork. Hold, please. There was golden nuggets in that right there from last week. So welcome to my brain, and welcome to episode 25 of All About the Grind. I'm your host, Brett Blankenship. Mr. David Ho to the Peck is
How
behind.
we doing?
I love that new nickname. I wasn't really planning on putting it on All About the Grind, but
Hey, it works.
it sort of fits. So life's challenges and how to bounce back with purpose. I like that.
Yep.
A little longer than my norm, but I wasn't really in a corny mood today. So I've been punched a little bit lately. And so I made notes, and I thought I'd talk a little bit, because I guarantee you I've never found where I have gone through any kind of an issue where I'm the only one. I used to think I was terminally unique, but I am not. There are many that have gone before me, and they found ways out. And so I like to study so I don't have to keep repeating the process. Change. And that's really what it gets down to, man. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it gets into, the purpose of getting you into change. I mean, Dave, you had a leg issue. You had health issues. I've had financial issues that were no fault of my own.
Yep.
And some that were. I've been in both situations. And then how do you get out?
That's a good question.
There's a lot of good answers too. How do I stay resilient? I think that's the first thing. And then understanding what change is going on. Are we talking about like an external, change? Dave has to make a decision whether to cut off his leg or not. And I'm not being funny. I mean, that is, you made that life choice.
Yep. After you yelled at me.
Well, now you got to tell the story. I mean, you can't. I wish you were on screen for that. It looks like I yelled at you. I did yell at you.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hang on. Let's see if that ties in. Because I was on the outside of you watching. You have to make a decision on change.
Yep. And I was waiting too long.
You were dying.
Yeah.
You were so pale. You had no real
I had
circulation.
no color.
And it was a circulation issue, wasn't it? As well.
It was more so the infection in my body.
Okay, it was spreading.
Oh, without a doubt.
Now, I wasn't a doctor, and I didn't know that, but I did know something was wrong. And after you came back from the doctors, you were not making a decision, and I was watching you slowly, quickly die.
Yeah.
And so I came in and I said, Dave, cut your fucking leg off and give yourself and your kids a chance. Something along that line.
Yeah. And I mean, I knew it had to be done, but
I couldn't believe I said it. We were private, but I'm glad that I have people in my life that'll do that for me, because there were parts of my body emotionally that I had to cut free.
yeah.
You knew that, dude.
Yep.
And I find that what I need to cut free continues to change, which is exactly the nature of change. That's sort of like the segment one for me. First is the change of and dealing with it. No, sometimes it's not even dealing with it. It's just accepting it. Life on life's terms. I cannot stop what life's going to do for me or to me. Now, I can do my best to live a healthy life, on the external side. But then there's the internal side, which is the mental side and the emotional side that is, during our young years, man, it plays a big part.
For sure.
Yeah. And, it's interesting how many people that are involved on the other side of it, where they carelessly raised children or they carelessly mistreated people or knowingly, whatever. Just it was me, I. And now to watch, just let it go. It was back then. But that really was during impressionable years. Your young man is now a man. How old is he?
26.
26. I mean, but yet his younger years played a big part in who he is. I don't think anybody that watches this would deny that. I mean, if you're around loving, caring, kind people, you have a greater percentage to become one of those people. And so if that's true, then the reverse is true.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best way I see it. I believe that internal, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I have no freaking idea. But I 100% believe the internal is the first step to me even dealing with the external. I remember when I was traveling, goodness, I mean, I traveled for decades, but I mean, I was on the road a lot. It was 250 plus days a year, and I was traveling. I think I was doing a lot of the Florida though, Orlando, Tampa. So it wasn't about mileage time. It was just about being away from anything that was real to me. My children, the touch of a loved one, the laughter, because everybody I was around, it was always business and what they wanted and the angle they were coming from. And, whether it be the bosses back here in Jacksonville or the franchisees from all around the Southeastern. And I never went into a place where somebody truly just wanted to sit down, and that's not true. There was a gentleman, Mr. Larry Hubbard, out of Anderson, South Carolina, and he was he was older back then, and man, when he spoke, he had weight on his words. I don't, I talk a lot, but when he spoke, it was thought out, it was conscious, and he was present, and that is power. And I used to love to be around him, and he didn't always agree with me, and nor did he agree with the corporation, but he would speak his mind honestly, fairly, kindly, but firmly, and then would hear the other people's points, and then he would give his counterpoints, and then he would go home and decide in a timely fashion, but not emotionally driven. Wow.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, don't be emotionally driven in it. If I get my emotions tied into my decisions, I make mistakes both ways, when things are going good and when I'm struggling and trying to find my ways out. But I can't find my way out of anything. I talk a lot about because I don't want to talk about you. This is your story. If you want to get engaged, then you start commenting on the posts and have a story. Come talk to me. We'll sit down and share it with people. But for me, I like to talk about That way it's non-threatening to other people, because it is my story. So nobody can deny what I go through, because I know it was my life. Now, you can deny that my view could be off. And I've always said this: if you are not willing to admit that you could absolutely be 100% wrong in the way that you view something, then you're not really critical thinker. You're not willing to be self-reflective. Because everything I lay out is just suggestions and ideas from one dude that lived a little bit of a life. I do know that change is constant. And that as life's on life's terms, man, there's been some things I didn't want happening that just absolutely were going to happen. And there's nothing I could do about it except either brace, stick my head in the sand, or prepare. I'm going to turn my mic down just a little bit.
Okay.
Is that better? No,
Your mic sounds the same. It's your headset that might be a little bit loud.
No, it popped a little bit.
Okay.
That's okay. I got it now. That's better. Whatever I did, Dave, it worked.
Yes, it did.
So back to the internal, external. So I got internal for me when I was traveling a lot. That was that little 3-minute run I always talk about. When I was traveling a lot, I would go into the hotel room and I would literally throw up blood. I'm not trying to be gross. It's just my story. I had so many ulcers from stress and it was self-induced. I mean, yeah, there were external influences, bosses and people that wanted things, but I put way more pressure on myself than anyone ever could. I also put way more guilt on myself than anybody ever could. I am my greatest critic. I didn't come up with that saying. That was somebody smart. And I certainly have experienced it. And I have found that to be true. But I hate change. I haven't found many that, okay, I used to hate change because it's the unknown. What's going to happen once you, if taking a body part, will it work? Right?
Yeah,
seriously. That's like, I can't even imagine. And I told you that then, although I cussed and yelled. There was a longer conversation.
However, though, the reason, the main factor was, I cut my leg off because I didn't know, and I didn't want the infection to come back after I had a different surgery and then be going through it again.
Yeah, you'd been fighting a lot. That you were on a 5-year battle, weren't you?
Oh, it was probably an 8-year battle
to try to save that leg.
Yep. Between the surgeries on both feet and
yep. You're better now.
Oh yeah.
Better. So we all can keep getting better, especially me. That's why I like this channel. I think it works well for me. I don't know what it does for the viewers. We seem to be growing a little bit. Thank y'all very much. I don't know why. I do know last week it was a horrible viewing. I think it was because of a horrible show, personally. I think it was my worst show. I was not engaged mentally, and I think it came out, personally.
A little bit. At the end, you kind of just, you seemed like you were done last week.
You don't know why? Exactly what we're talking about this week. I was internally, mentally, I was getting my ass whooped. Live, well, not live to y'all, but live on, we put it up unedited.
And I can tell you why it was.
What's that?
Last week was the first time you had ever gotten delayed, and it was later than we planned on.
And so my mental preparation.
You have a routine you go through.
I do.
And last week, you guys were out running errands and delivering chairs, and you got here a little bit late.
And I tried to sit down and go.
Yep.
Very interesting. I was absolutely unsettled and went to go pull it together as a vet, not necessarily of the media world, but of leadership, and it wasn't my best. There were messages in there.
Oh, yeah.
It was good, but I think that early on you could tell, because that's why you only have so many
This
views.
is you being your hardest critic.
Yeah. But I'm not doing it just to beat myself up. And therein lies the difference between me, people like me, and others. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm a success or like way up here and the others are. I'm saying there's just a difference in how to get to the end result that we all want, which is just back to peace of mind. Hang on, I wrote something down. I'm not supposed to lick your fingers after the COVID. I could care less.
You know how many times I think about that when I'm counting money?
Okay, I don't lick my fingers on. I have that. You don't have the little damp thing. Okay, we'll talk about it later. Yep. Health, relationships, and peace of mind. When you really break it down to the core of what I want in life is to have, for me to have self-worth is to know that I have relationships that are deep and meaningful. And so when they're strained, it sucks, And health, absolutely. Health, it has become your number one priority in a lot of aspects.
Oh, very much so.
You got to watch a lot.
Yeah.
Al Emmerich with his diabetes.
Yeah.
He watches everything he eats and how much I've been with him when we've been out. He'll like, no, even back when I used to drink, be like, no, I can't have any more. Because he truly watches his what is it? The count?
The A1C?
There it is, A1C. I hope I never really have to become familiar with that.
I hope so, too.
I'm working on it. I'm just a calorie deficient is how I stay thin. It is not through necessarily healthy eating by any means, although I have cut back way back. And that's the progress, not perfection, that saves my ass in life. And here, this takes me to another topic. I mean, another segment that helps me get out of the funk. You ever been in a funk? Man, I've been in some funks. And man, some I put myself in, others were just life on life's terms. Micro wins. This shirt's bugging me. It's like all over. God. You ever have that shirt like just keeps twisting on you? Okay, that's where I am right now. But we're going to work through it. Micro wins. I have to catch myself doing things right. Oh my gosh, it worked with my kids. You know, I grew up with a belt and fear of God, and you know that has worked for many. It didn't work for me. I mean, that's just my story. You just made me tougher. I'm gonna spank you till you cry. Okay, I didn't cry, and they didn't stop, and it became a battle of wills. And so all it did was built just this that just grew. You know, a child doesn't understand that. I'm not saying don't spank that child. I'm not saying don't pop your kid. We talked about this a long time ago. I'm going to talk about it one more time because you don't know who listens and who hasn't. We've got some new followers. I've done a lot in my life that has been really good. And on the other extreme, I've done a lot in my life that has been things I'm not necessarily proud of. But they are my story. One thing I did really well was my kids, who are now adults. And there was love in the house. There were mistakes that were made that would not be made in some of these beautiful, perfect houses that go to these big fancy buildings on Sundays. That's a little joke and jab. So we used to be the one that put on the mask. You know, I did. And I'm not speaking for my family. I'm speaking for me. And it built this. I mean, there was already will. I mean, so it's which way are you going to train a young man or young daughter to be? They're going to have willpower. And is it in dragging themselves back to making quality decisions, or is it in fighting the establishment to be heard? You know, how do you let the world be around your children and yet they not be totally affected? Because they're going to be impacted. There's no doubt about it. There is too much influence on these young people to not be impacted. There's too much influence on me as an adult to not be impacted. So I got to be careful what my input is, because whatever my input is going to be my output. Dude, that's simple. I didn't come up with that. That's since I was a kid. I think some teacher talked about it. I was like, that makes sense. And he probably got it from somebody else. And that's what we're losing, man. I was walking by my house, which I've recently moved, and I'm in a neighborhood now. I've run into one of my neighbor's back cars because, you know, I'm not used to cars being around. And there's these young people that live across the street that have friends over, right? And it's a real tight neighborhood, parking, driveway-wise and parking lot-wise, and they are a budding family. And so they park over near my house sometimes, and they come rolling in just doom, 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 you know. And I don't see many people outside, but, I was outside, and I asked him who the artist was. And I think he was ready for me to, like, don't play that music, you know. I was like, no, I just had a good beat, and I just liked it. I was in the backyard, you know, and I had to get some out of the van anyways. And I got to talking to these young people, and I'm going to tell you, there's not much difference between them and me. We just want to know people accept us, right? I don't see where anything from anybody. Now, I do know some people that don't give a damn if you accept them. I can't live my life that way because then I get numb. And if I get numb, then I'm going to do what I want to do, how I want to do it, and I'm not going to pay a damn bit of mind to anybody out there. And I think that's socially inept. I think I don't think it's healthy. So I taught my kids that no meant no at an early age. And I did it without really spanking them. Now, I would pop them on the butt. They had the big diapers, right? And so what you do is you never let the child see your hand, right? Try this, okay? If you're young and they're frustrating you, hang on, try this. So, like, my youngest would be facing something and he'd have a knife, and I told him, no, don't pick it up or whatever. And he would go to pick it up. He's not looking at me. And I would come from behind, and as I would pop his rear where the diaper was, it would just sort of nudge him a little bit. I would say no firmly. No. Guess where that comes from? Dog training.
Oh?
Kid you not.
Yep.
And dadgummit, if it didn't work, I'm telling you, by the time that young man was 8 months old, he knew no meant no. And he had no welts on his leg. And, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was those firm moments that you pop his hand when he's looking. I mean, kids are bullheaded. I was. But I was very surprised at how fast my children learned that no meant no, which was then a foundation to build on. If they don't have respect for the foundation of the mother and the father, or if you're a single parent, of the mother themselves, or if you're a single father, I know some, of the father themselves, you will lose that battle every time. And if you get emotionally tied into it, you're done. Rarely would I allow myself to emotionally get tied in with where they were. Now, we could talk it out, and I allowed myself to change my mind as many times as I like. You're going to hear me say that here 1,000 times. Some people call it wishy-washy. They're dead wrong in my world, and I can prove it. It has saved me many times in life because I've been able to adapt on a much quicker pace than many people because I've allowed myself to change my mind. I have changed it to the wrong idea a time or two. That sucked. Thus, the All About the Grind podcast. There is a discomfort for me, dude, in transitions. When you feel it coming, it's going to suck. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
So how long from the time you decided to cut that you made the decision that you were going to move your leg
Mm-hmm.
to the time that you actually had the surgery?
Literally, I went to the doctor and they told me to just go get scans and see what was going on. And 6 hours later, they told me there was no choice.
But I mean, when did you get it done? That night?
No, it ended up where I went in the hospital and I had to lay in the bed for 11 days before they had an opening to get me into the
That's
surgery.
my point. And so you had to sit there, but you
Yeah.
really had no choice.
No. I mean, they almost discharged me and brought me back as an outpatient to do it.
Whatever.
But they kept having emergencies and this and that. And, I was just glad. And I couldn't leave the hospital because we didn't want the infection to spread.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 11 days of sitting there thinking about it.
Head swirling?
Oh.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. This is the way I see it. To me, life is cycles. So the same cycle you go through with the leg decision and all the chaos and the 11 days, did I make the right decision? Am I making the right decision? Because hey, Dave, no going back when you cut your leg off.
No. No.
So, and by the way, you did make the right decision.
Yes.
I mean, you were down, 60 pounds?
I
50?
lost 73 pounds since I got diagnosed with it.
Yeah, and that's not like leg, but you were healthier. I mean, you were in better shape.
Yep.
And you have a sexier leg now. It's really cool.
It's mechanical.
It's mechanical. If we just weaponize that thing, that'd be awesome. Oh, the heavy hits. That's a heavy hit, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, facing life on life's terms with
So many things I used to do that I'm like, man, I wish I could still go do that. And it's not that I can't. It's just I'm not going to be able to do it like I used to do.
So watch this, Dave. There's so many things I used to be able to do when I ran with that corporation, and I was a franchisee, and I worked for the corporation, and I was in training, and that's my point. Is the cycle is the mentality is the same. It's that bang, bang, bang. Just, I mean, wearing ourselves out. And I got around some dudes that said, "Hey, Brett, why don't you go ahead and get off the cross? Somebody's already been there." I was insulted when they said that. was like, because I happen to believe in that dude. I was like, how dare you? And then I began to think about it. I just made myself a victim, and you know, I either had to do that or I had to make you an enemy to drive me. And you've been around for that.
Yep.
And that's smoke and mirrors too. You never get to fight them one-on-one.
No.
You never get them on a fair playing field. I have not been able to. And that's okay for me today. So becoming okay with the adjustments and what does that even mean, dude? How do we even get there? I'll tell you this. I can't get there alone. I have to have people around me. I have to surround myself with like-minded people.
It definitely helps.
Yeah, I gotta have somebody. I gotta have a Brett in my life that's gonna come in and say, "Cut your fucking leg off." And that leg for me could be ego, could be decision making, could be financial decision making, because I can make some money.
I mean, it was basically the same thing with you. I mean, we finally looked at you and say, "Stay in the damn hospital until you got healthier."
Oh yeah, the rhabdomyolysis.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, but I still left.
The first time.
Yeah, the second time I
Second
was
time
ready.
you stayed.
Okay, that's true. It was. It's true. Same cycle. Hard-headed as could be, because I was trying to make a living.
There's your cycle. Thinking how many times I had problems with my feet because I kept working.
Yep. But why did we keep working? What were we chasing?
Yeah.
And we think it was just the money and the bills. But was there, I don't know, for me, I think that there was more than that. I mean, death, loss, divorce, diagnosis like you, and then...
for me, it was like go to work and kind of put it out of your mind for a while.
Yeah. For me, it has been just a drive to chase something that doesn't exist. And fight for something that's not there. It's a mirage. I keep saying have to. I had to realign my thought process. Mental resilience. I like that word.
Yeah.
But daggum, it sounds all fancy, but it's about, it's the old school, pick yourself up by the bootstraps.
Exactly.
I get it, and I've done it, and I'm going to have to do it again. I'm in the middle of some wars right now.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I'm actually doing it, but there's no emotion in it right now, like there used to be. And to me, that's telling me there's personal growth in there.
Yeah, you're this time compared to the last time when it went.
When I got in roofing.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, because I don't put weight into what I used to put weight into. The victory, the loss, who's going to say what, who's going to talk, who's going to cackle, it just doesn't bother me anymore. And I didn't get there overnight. Now, do I have my moments? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll get on here one day when I got my moments. Oh, my gosh. I have to be able to get back to my mental resilience. The only way I can do that is I got to know what happened. The only way I can do that is I have to be brutally honest. And I think that's the big rock in the road that really has blocked me in the past, is that willingness to be able to look in the mirror and go, I'm wrong. This is this is me. Or this is where when I quit drinking, I didn't quit drinking willingly. I had a little bit of help along the way.
Yes, you did.
There was a judge or two who was probably tired of seeing me. And I thought it was all a game because I didn't have the mental maturity at that time. And I didn't understand this process. And this process wasn't something that I came up with. All of this is taught to me. I may adjust it and tweak it to my personality, and I think everybody that watches this should. There'll be things in every one of these segments and episodes that mean absolutely nothing to someone right now. But I think you run into people in life that I've never found anything in here that I haven't been able to hand to other people, because it being a cycle and then them being able to apply it to whatever they're dealing with in life. And so, we're this is for me, as I sit, as a Gen X guy in my 50s, life has gotten really simple. And so I don't have fear. I don't walk in fear. And this world is built on fear. And it started with turning that tube off and not watching the news. Now that doesn't mean I don't stay up to date, but I don't watch the
everyday negative.
There's only 3 companies that own them all, man. I mean, so I will dig and find my own in my own way. I may get the topics off of those channels,
Right.
but I don't spend every day looking for it. I figure if Russia is attacking, I would know it pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to call me because you're watching it. All y'all people watching the news, you're going to tell me. So, I don't know. I'm not going to. But then again, I watch YouTube that is all about, cops arresting people and shoplifters.
I'll say I watch YouTube and Facebook, and if I see something that pops up that someone said, then I'll go to the news and look and see if it's true or not.
But I mean, I in all fairness, in all honesty, I do watch negative things on YouTube. Like I like to watch shoplifters get busted and try to run in handcuffs. What are y'all doing, peeps? Do we have any? I don't think we have grinders that would watch. I mean, people like that I don't think would watch something like this, because I don't know how to break into the safe. I can't show you. So that's another 10-minute segment somewhere else. No, I can tell you how to break into your brain, and it's through micro wins. So all the way back around to my kids and the learning no early. And then as they learned that, I started dropping micro wins in. I would tell them no, and just for a half a second, even though I knew they were going to go back to the struggle of whether or not to grab it, the minute they would pick their hand away from it, I would, man, that a boy, and I'd just make a big deal about it. He'd get happy, and then I'd hand him the spoon or whatever he wanted to get. And so it alleviated the headache. It alleviated the battle. And if you do, and then obviously, like in anything in life, as they grew, you began to add, large, heavier and heavier weight of attaboys, and micro wins are much bigger at that time. Watching your boy in sports. Mm-hmm. My gosh, man, I knew what I did wrong. I can tell you that much after my game.
Oh yeah,
whether it be from coaches or parents or what have you. But I didn't hear much of that attaboy, and it's not a stroke and an ego thing. It's. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And, I would find them doing things right so that we could talk about the things they were doing wrong. I'm not going to listen to somebody that all they talk about is negativity. A child's going to go numb to that, especially if you're beating them. So I think we're getting less and less in that, but unfortunately, I think it's gone the absolute opposite way. There's like no parenting going on,
no,
or their friends. And one of my famous sayings with my kids was, "Hey, Bub," I said, I love being your friend and knowing all your friends and being casual. I said, but I'm your parent, and if you make me choose, I'm a parent first.
Yeah.
But if you give me the opportunity, I get to guide and be friendly. And most of the time, they pick right. I mean, come on. I'll tell you this, they picked a lot more right than I did.
That group definitely picked right in their friend group, for sure.
It's interesting. Zach has my oldest has a couple friend groups in high school. Jaybird's friend groups stayed about the same. He had a core group that started early and they stayed. Sydney, my daughter, hers has changed frequently. And I'm proud of her changes. Some of them were forced, girls and guys, young age, they butt heads in high school and everything. And then other times they were just making different decisions than what Sydney wanted to do.
It's funny. It might be a girl thing because Rachel was the same way.
And then you sell.
Chris and Justin all had their groups, and
It is true.
Rachel would have friends, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, "Where's your friend?" She's like, whatever,"
Oh, I mean, I had
and they were gone.
Yeah, I still have some of them in my phone, and I'm like, "Where'd she go?" We don't talk anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, so whatever. I think with the micro wins that happen with my children, I used them in life before I even had children, because by 17 I was living on my own on Phillips Highway, and I wasn't in the greatest area. But you know what? My micro win was I had a job and had a guy that would pick me up, and I would go dig footers, and I was able to collect legal money doing that and buy my food and pay my rent. And every time I would pay, man, there was pride. And I knew the future. I didn't know what it brought. There was fears all out there, dude, because I was in college, and I had a path, and then I get back home, and I can't live under mom and dad's rules after I've already been out on my own, and it's not their fault, and I don't necessarily blame me. It was just time to move on, and so that brought a ton of fears. I just didn't look up. It's that next right thing that helps me. So that's sort of the terms they taught me that helps me with my micro wins. I got to have them, and it begins to build momentum. Sports. You want to talk about cycles and how it all ties in? Watch a basketball team. I can tell you what. Watch a baseball team. Watch a football team. All of a sudden, they block a punt. The whole game changes. They could be down by 23. They could be down by 3 scores, and the game will change. Basketball can change quick.
Very much so.
Man, Stephon Curry, not against Houston. I caught that last game. Not against Houston, but the last series. They were all over him. They're learning how to defend him, so he's having to double work.
You ever watch how much he moves on the court?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's not just a shot.
No.
But he only had, I think, 4 points.
Yeah, there were a couple games. One game he had 3 points.
No, in the first half. This one I'm thinking of was in the first half. He had like 4 points, a couple turnovers, and maybe an assist or two. Mm-hmm. And then the third quarter, he did what Stephon, or what the greats, Michael Jordan, what you could hold people down for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
But I have found that, greatness comes in many forms. I don't have to be Michael Jordan to get up. I just got to start getting up. To others, I have a brother-in-law who works in a career that was much that I'm being a little careful on purpose. That was not really built for his age group, which is my age group. He's a little bit younger, and he went out there and he has to run, and he has to military style, and he has to meet a certain time frames, and he's the last one every time. And he would just chuckle. Not chuckle because he didn't care. He just did the very best he could. By the way, he met all requirements, and he's dynamic at what he does, and he's a perfect fit for it. But he still has to go out and register or certify. Thank you. From time to time, and we were talking about it the other day, and he chuckles. He says they actually love me because we all have to run in together, and so they all have to slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah,
for
so all the studs get to go a little bit slower to keep him with him, because he's the older dude. He started older. He changed his career once him and my sister got together at a little bit later in life, and it's been cool to watch. He doesn't know it. He'll never watch this. But he's an inspiration in that way. So he was willing to do something. Here I sit at 54. And you know me, I'm already looking at new things. I mean, we got a podcast, dadgummit.
Yep.
People chuckle at it. Not now, but, when I was talking about it. But the messages I get privately, this thing is really cool. And it has nothing to do with me. This ego ain't going to go there. Because I know what happens. I have been down that road. Now, that's wisdom right there. I got some stories for you. What they say? I been there, got the T-shirt.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, I hate all that sayings. I want something nicer, cool. I got to redefine my priorities after life changes or during life change. At least reassess. I got to make sure that I'm not in this because of me. And that takes some deep self-reflection. I use paper and pencils. That's why I always have them, because I allow myself to change. No, Brett, you're bullshit, and I can erase it and put the right words down. And I want to make a list, pros and cons, and I want to be brutally honest. It helps me a lot. I have to, after crisis, I will tell you this. And crises can be Dave, you changed. Your values changed.
Yeah.
Your eating habits became far more important.
Yeah.
I know mine did. My calorie intake I was in the hospital twice. I almost died. And this has been, how long ago now? 4 years?
Ooh, no.
Oh, really?
It was longer than that.
Okay, good. I thought you were going to say sooner.
No.
You know me in time.
Oh, yeah.
You'll know why. You want to know finally why I don't ever know anything like that? Because I live in the now. I live in the moment. I don't blindly live in the moment. You see me, playing out and project and where I want to be in business and life. But I do live in the moment, because if I don't, the past, man, is nothing but regrets and good memories. But there's a lot of regrets in there. And I find that true with a lot of people. And then the future is full of worry and fear. And I'm just not going to walk in fear. It started with the Israelites. Not the Israelites, but Israel. When I found out, this is a little side story, but when I found out that they would, this was years ago, but they would be, obviously bombs get thrown over out of the Gaza Strip all the time, and will blow up, or bombers would walk into a little cafe and blow it up, and they would hustle. And I'm paraphrasing and butchering this, but the concept is just, I can't wrap my mind. I couldn't wrap my mind around it back then. They would hustle to get that thing cleaned out, get it reset up, and be back open for business. And I don't remember what little stupid documentary it was or where. I watch a million of them, but I was just fascinated with a guy who was speaking in their tongue, but it was, you had the little subtitles underneath. And he was just saying, he says, we will not let them have us live in fear. And that's what terrorism is. They want to terrorize you. I remember 9/11. My dad was up in New York. I couldn't get a hold of him. I was down at the distribution center. I'm down there dialing his number. I'm watching the towers. He was only 9 blocks away. And he tells some really neat stories. I hope to get him on here one day, because about that, not neat, but surreal, about just watching people. He went on the street because there is no power, and watching people go by and the blankness in their face. You want to talk about a major change?
Oh yeah.
That was overnight. So that was a traumatic change, a traumatic thing for our country as a whole, as a community. We all did. And the bonding together that came just for a short period of time after those tragic moments, hurricanes, major catastrophes. It's becoming less and less. Shootings aren't. They just go political like that, automatic. We don't even give families time to grieve anymore.
Nope.
Or to just tell the story that this deranged, this, that, or other idiot,
Keep it off the news. These people won't want to become famous in a way.
But Dave, fear sells.
Yeah.
Fear sells like sex sells.
True.
And terror sells. It is what this world is nurtured to, I don't know if it's like personally, human, internal. I don't know. I do know this. We have an insane, as a humans, I believe, and I am not a psychologist in any which way. I just love human dynamics on a layman's redneck term. Redneck world. I've studied it my whole life because I've dealt with people my whole life, and trained and developed and led and failed and succeeded. And so I've learned a lot. And I lost where I was going. So I guess it really didn't matter.
You were talking about an insatiable something. We're talking about
I
the
got you.
news and
Thank
the
you.
fear. And
There is an insatiable appetite that ultimately, whether it be addiction, whether it be workaholic, whether it be children, helicopter parenting, and whatever blank is to you, there's an insatiable appetite that ultimately you get numb to and you need more. I guess greed is at the base, and that's even in good things. I mean, moderation is so hard to have in anything. I mean, even parenting. People parent too much. Let that kid fall. Let your kid fall. Let him scrape them knees up. Let him break his arm. I'm not saying let him cut his finger off. I'm all for, but I mean, come on, man.
they don't even have playgrounds like we used to have anymore.
They got them in these playing communities. I don't know how I feel about it. My kids got out. I made sure of it. Now, not out past the lights, I guess. Did I? Let me think. Actually, I did. I was fine with them coming home right at dark. Zach, Jake, they used to ride their bikes. Now, where we lived was somewhat protective, but we had, there was times that there was those guys that were riding around in the truck that were looking for kids. Remember that?
Yeah.
I still let my kids go. Oh, you're a bad dad. Nuh-uh. They didn't know. We had that one long straight road. All they had to do was do one more road. And we also talked about what to do when somebody pulled up. You got to go through the scenarios with your children. And really, if it's talking business, you got to go through scenarios with your employees. If you're talking marriage, you got to go through scenarios with your husband or wife. Cycles. God, it helps me grow so much, man. I don't know how people don't see it. But I will tell you, after crises, my values and priorities have and do shift. I don't know if you've had that case. I'm not talking about you, Dave. I'm sort of looking in the camera too. But, that's where I got to get down to the basics. I got to figure out where do I want to go? And sometimes I don't even know what's best for me. And so I got to run my ideas through other people. And I have to be willing to hear what they have to say. I don't know many people that, now I'm not saying that I'm going to follow exactly what someone says, but I absolutely want somebody to challenge my thought process. I don't care if it's from Elon Musk to Lee Iacocca. Now, he was a very haughty, get her done kind of guy. I read a couple books about him, but he was, fabulous. But all these crazy, insane, phenomenal business people, they still had people that would tell them no. Donald Trump, he has people that'll say no to him. They don't think it, but he does. Because I've seen enough of, even on TV, you can't hide. Like that stupid show that he used to have, the You're Fired.
Yeah.
I watched like the first 5 seasons. That thing was real. And I'm not talking about like totally real, but the interaction with the people and Amorosa or whatever. And then it got sensationalized, as TV does. Now reality TV is so not reality. They stage it the way they want, So I have to know that they shift, and I got to figure out where it is. And so for me, I've got to start funneling it through other people that I trust and that I have set up. So if you have nobody in your corner, then it's like having yourself as an attorney. I'm using my own self as a psychologist, but I'm the one that got me in that mess. So if I am doing that, and then I just go and replug it back into the same brain that got me in that mess, well, what the hell you think I'm going to get? The same damn results. That's called insanity, by the way. That's actually the definition. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Insanity. I have been insane so many times in my life, man. Woo. Even when I thought I was doing it for a good purpose, my subconscious was heading a different route. Really weird. And you know how they got me there? Through micro wins on their side. It's just which dog I'm going to feed. And I can't see it, so I have to do it through running it through other people. Or else it just doesn't work. So if you don't have somebody in your life that you can go have lunch with, I suggest the same sex, personally. And really be brutally honest with them. I have business mentors. I have emotional mentors. I have ladies in my life that I can use to gain insight from. Man, when you gather all that information to the best of your ability and you're brutally honest with them, they help you. They help me get to a point of self-reflection that I can get a real clear idea on whether I am truly in a healthy spot or I'm in a greedy spot or I'm in a transition spot. And each one of those I got to deal with a little bit differently. Transitions are my most dangerous. I get antsy. And now I've learned to be still. And that is a skill I did not have for quite some time. And it's not paralyzed still. It's just I know the right intuitive thoughts will come because of my life experiences and my life practice, and it has not failed me yet. Now, it has failed, and I've had businesses fail, but it always springboards me to exactly where I'm supposed to be. Now, is that the universe? Is that God? Does God really care if I am financially successful or I fail? I think he cares. This is me and my interpretation. I think the God of your understanding cares how I respond to what happens. And that takes some work for me. I'm not always there because I can be a kid. I don't want that. I don't want to go through this change, man. Can we? Whoa. Can we just? Because shoot. Can we just stay right here? Just take a breath. Nope. So now I just learn on a different scale. May not be a great analogy to y'all, but now I've learned on a different scale how just like the Israel does, just to move back to whatever that new norm is and begin to put one foot in front of the other and grind, which means micro wins, itemizing my priorities for that day. Sometimes, man, for me, those micro wins, I had to get it down to, okay, for this morning, I'm going to get this. I still do this sometimes. I'm going to get this accomplished. You've been around me when I've looked at sweet people that I care about and go, I cannot talk to you right now. Because I'm looking at my clock and I'm going, I have to get this done.
Yeah.
And they may think that I'm like no, it's an internal clock. That if I don't get it done, I'm violating my own contract with myself. I make contracts. I'm not saying written out, but I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do.
Right.
To the best of my ability, or I'm going to have to account for myself first. And I do that through not me looking in the mirror like some people say, hey, it may work for you. For me, it doesn't. I can look in the mirror because I'll look in the mirror and I'll lie to myself. Because I may not pick up on everything that you see. I may not know my tone is ugly that day. To me, I just have a lot of things going on. I got to be real direct. And next thing I know, I've ticked off 5 people. And I don't even know it. If I don't come in with my head on a swivel and go, okay, Brett, you have the ability to be too direct with people. That's a little micro win. And so I will come in, whatever business, and I will listen, actively listen. I love that word, actively listen. And people say I'm listening. They're not listening. Actively listen. I want to hear my words come out. I want to hear the voice fluctuation come out. And then I want to see the response from, and then I know. Micro win. And I can suck later down the day, but I have a win to hang on. And if I stack up enough micro wins, I've blocked a punt. and all of a sudden the football game
Momentum
changed.
turn.
Momentum shifts. And I'm telling you, there's not a sport out there or anybody watching this that has not watched soccer, basketball, wrestling, table tennis, I don't care. Some form of sport where you've seen momentum shift, and we've all felt that energy because we are frequencies. Now, I don't know to what degree. I ain't getting all foo-foo, aluminum foil hat on me. But I do know this. I'm going to post a link to a panhandle. He plays it with his hands, and he hits different frequencies. You sit there with your eyes shut and listen to 1111. Some of you people may know the better hertz, but he knows them. And he plays it, and it's an hour long. You want to talk about feeling it inside your chest and the reverberations and everything? It is crazy. I don't know how deep it goes, but I know they have weapons that use frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
They can burst your eardrums with a sound. They can keep crowds away with sound control. What does that real high pitched, sounds? So if it works there, why wouldn't it work on other things? They break up kidney stones with frequencies, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard one person. I've heard every person I've ever run into has said this at least once. Man, that person gives me the bad vibes, or I get a bad, right? He doesn't make me feel right. What is that? That's frequency to me of some form, reverberations. So I often wonder when the Bible talks about, God spoke and created the earth, if it wasn't through frequencies. A little out there. But if you really think about it, if they say, when they say the name is Yahweh, and they say it actually is breath, like, gets pretty weird. The breath of life. I'm going to put a couple links in. There's some cool things out there. Like there's, when you take I'm not going to butcher it. I'll put it up. There's some things that'll make you really come on now. Like 365 times in the Bible, it says, do not be afraid, which happens to be every day of the year. What a coincidence, Then some bozo's going to say, yeah, what about leap year? Well, then you get two don't be afraid in one day, all right? How about this? If we were on a 13-month calendar, there would be no leap years.
Yep.
Why are we on a 12-month calendar? Can anybody explain that to me? I don't have the answer yet, so I'm not even going to try to talk about it yet. But you and I are going to talk about this on this podcast. I'm making notes.
Okay.
Where did that third month? If we do 13 months in a year, do you know how many days a year? You know how many days a month that is? 28 every month.
Yeah.
And what is a woman's menstrual cycle? 28 days.
Yep.
Hello? Is anybody listening? Why are we off of our cycle? Why do they want us on a recreated calendar that we have to change the times and the days had to fluctuate, and you have to do the fingers where this one's longer and this one's shorter and this one, I don't know. I just got questions. I'm not saying I know anything. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but I'm not saying it's not either. I'm not there yet. I'm not going to be a conspiracy show anyways. There's enough of those.
Yes, there are. I'll
post some of them. There's some really good ones. Joe Rogan brings out a lot of stuff. So he has some very interesting. But I do watch like the redheaded giants that were here before the Indians that were called indigenous people up in the Tennessee area, which happens to be huge mounds. I don't know. That's pretty interesting stuff to me. When I know my values and principles have shifted, as I'm shifting back to this, And then I fall back into what truly matters, and I get into my health and my relationships and my peace of mind, and I get out of my problems and I get into the solutions. And for me, getting into the solution is reaching out to others. And it can be the micro wins of reaching out to others. It can be opening a door. I kid you, for me.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow my momentum begins to shift. And the day shifts. My mindset shifts. What enters my mind shifts. Because we all know what goes in comes out. So if I'm putting negative in or putting worry in or putting fear in, why isn't fear going to come out? It absolutely is coming out in my life. It came out through my body. I mean, I wrote goodbye notes to my wife thinking I was having heart attacks. I mean, for years, not every night, but there was multiple nights in a year where I would sit in a hotel and say goodbye. I wasn't going to kill myself ever, but I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. It's what they call panic attacks. I hate that word. I don't deal with them anymore because I learned a different process. I did not know how to prioritize my redefined priorities. I didn't know how to define my newest priorities. Al comes in my life, and value mapping comes in my life, and his mentality. And he gave me a little sheet years ago to work on for a business to find the value when he was first working on that business. It was like an equation based. And I didn't do it all because my mindset was on something else. But I did apply a lot of it to the personal side and the emotional growth. That was pretty interesting. And I found out something. I'm not always driven for self-gratification, but I'm absolutely driven for knowing people know I give a damn. To the point that it could be a sickness. People pleasing. It's what it rolls into. It's not healthy. Because there's a difference, just like this is a difference between humiliation and humility. There's a difference between being willing to be a servitude to people and letting them walk over you. And I didn't know the difference. And that hurt me in business. I kept people too long because I thought I was doing the next right thing. And in reality, they were violating litmus tests left and right. And that's through the, micro wins through micro steps. And it can go either way. The micro wins get me micro steps up, but the micro tests also show me where someone is. Some people call them litmus tests.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to start moving forward with intent. It's not scary when you get to that moment because you've already walked through fear. You've already redefined your priorities. I know what matters to me. People pleasing is not in that equation. That was key for me. I had to get that people pleasing out of my regular thought process. Otherwise, I was not making good financial, business, or personal decisions. It would be skewed because then all of a sudden I'm making decisions because I want that person happy, but it doesn't benefit the business. I want them to work with me. I want them to work this, but maybe that's not the position for them. So I really did everybody disservices. I've done that before in multiple stores. And it wasn't because I was lazy and I didn't want to change. I really thought they were going to work their way into it, even though every litmus test was telling me it wasn't going to happen. So I didn't trust the facts. And man, if I get to where I don't trust the facts, if I can't be brutally honest and trust the facts that come from the brutal honesty and the self-reflection, then I have no chance in hell of redefining my priorities. And if I can't redefine my priority, if I don't know what my redefined priorities are, well, then I can't set a game plan up to then follow where my mental state is going. And all of a sudden, you got people that start separating mentally and physically. And they start doing two different things. Guess what happens after that? Panic attacks. Pills. I'm multi this and I'm this, that. And now we all become unique, terminally unique. This one's got ADHD. This one's got ADD. This one's got multi-personalities. This one's got what all the personality traits are and everything. And I'm not saying they are not out there. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to understand all that. But I do understand that they were going to put my son on pills. My middle boy, they had him pegged at ADD, one of those two. And my wife came home, and she was a good mom. She just was listening to her pediatrician. And he was a good pediatrician. He's just listening to the school that he went to that taught him the best way to deal with. And then over the years, they've now defined this, you know. And guess what? I watched that boy. And he sat there and played video games for 2 hours. And I said, that kid doesn't have ADD. You can't do that on ADD.
Mm-mm.
You know, now do we all have some, but we always want to put some kind of a tag on it, man. Why can't it just be a mistake and move on? Why can't it just be, you know, the child is in a growth transition of this, that, and the other, and I haven't done a good parenting job. And then we adjust. I heard one recently say, I wish I had been a better this or that. And yet they're still alive. And as they were talking, I was just sitting there looking at them, and I'm sitting there thinking,
Change.
thank you. But we are a complex people for a simple world. Everybody will say you're crazy. Oh, yeah? Turn off the news. Don't get on TikTok. Don't get on YouTube and watch this. And I will have nothing to do. Well, yeah, I would. I'd still be talking. If it was just me, I'd still do it. This is my therapy, man. What are you talking about? I get to finally put down what I always wanted to do. This has been awesome for me because it has helped me redefine my priorities. And I believe it to continue. I haven't, next week we're going to have a gentleman on, as long as it all goes as planned, who has revolutionized his life. Local, went to Ribault, was an athlete, and I don't know. We'll let him tell the story. His name's Theo. So we're going to see about getting him on. He and I've talked a couple times this last week, and he's interested, and there's also some others. But I'm really enjoying the one-on-one. Now, I don't know how it's playing off for you guys, so tell me. It sucks. Get guests on here. What do you think, I'm going to cry? Not with the ability to redefine my priorities. Stuff it. I do care. And so then I went the other route. And then I got cold. I can get so cold with people that I don't give a damn about what nobody thinks. And I am not unique, so I know there's other people like that. So I have to find that balance. And that's where my mentors come in. I got to have people in my life that will tell me their view. And it may not be 100% accurate, but if I get enough views from enough people and I have the willingness to really look at it hardcore in the mirror after I've looked at it and look for the similarities, not the differences. Oh my gosh, people, look for the similarities, not the differences. Please. Otherwise, I'd had no conversation with that young man down in front of me. He had long hair. The other girl had a nose ring. They're multicultural, you know, in every aspect. African American and I believe even Hispanic. I could be way off, but they're definitely multicultural. And you know, why would I talk with him? I have nothing in common with him. I'm a 54-year-old man. I know that young man's got wisdoms I don't have, and I have wisdoms he doesn't have. Man, there's value in everybody, even the broken. I've been around a lot of broken people. I've been blessed to, and I'll put it that way. To me, it's a blessing. because I don't have to go through every lesson they went through, but I also get to watch what works and what doesn't work. I have never seen one broken become unbroken without deep self-reflection. Not one. I have seen them get better without many other skill sets, but not without self-reflection. And I think it starts in the little things. For me, growing up, I wasn't always happy, and I became a good liar, and that was the first thing I had to really work on. I was young, and I would literally go, "Nope, that's a lie." And people, and I've done it around you, I believe.
Yeah.
It goes on to this day, and it's not really a lie; it's just habit now for me. But at that time, it absolutely was lies, and I was just for no reason, and I just wanted to have value with other people, and I felt less than, and not a part of, and so like you stud athletes, so I would want to be a part. So I would tell my stories, and with a little spin, take the fish from this size to that size, and it became a monster. It became a dog that I used to walk, that in the end walked me. And I no longer had control over that monster. People forget, man, it's not a firm leash. It's a soft leash. That dog will pull. All of a sudden, it'll turn around on you. And it did. I was fortunate enough. I don't know where I got it from, but just at an early age, I would just start calling myself out. And then I had times in my life where I'd fall back into it. Yeah. But each time that I got out of it, it was absolutely the same way. I would have to be brutally honest with myself and go, that's not the truth. And then I'd have to call it out. I haven't had to deal with that much, in my adulthood, other than when I'm talking to the popo. No, I wasn't driving. No, that's where I wish I was Catholic. They get to go. You do. Oh wait, you're Catholic.
Yeah.
Y'all go do a couple Hail Marys. Boom, bam, bing, you're done. Right?
Yeah.
We're burning in hell. I don't know. So, speaking of Catholicism, dude. So we just had the Pope pass, right? Did you see those outfits those dudes wear?
Yeah.
Come on, man. What's up with that?
I don't know.
They're black. And they're like the head's a cone that is more. It looks like a KKK hat.
A little bit.
Okay, and it's all black, but it's much taller. Yeah, that's a creepy traditions they got, man. For a guy that doesn't know much about Catholicism, so I'll just leave it at that. I'm open to hear it. Not like right now. I don't have to hear anything, but
can't give it to you.
I can tell, Dave, and that's okay. It just I'm a questioning guy. I just saw this video and I was like, okay, guys, that felt like, what was that movie with Tom Cruise?
Oh,
I mean, it had the black and white floors and everything, man. It was
Mission Impossible.
No, where he's it's that sexual whatever. Where they were invited privately and all that.
Oh, Eyes Wide Shut.
There it is. Eyes Wide Shut.
Yep.
That was creepy. And that's sort of how I felt when they're doing. Have they picked a new priest or pope?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Dave.
I'm looking.
They're either burning a red one or a yeah. No, wait, they burn red. See, I even know that. Rome is its own country. It has its own military.
Who?
Rome, where your religion is.
You're talking about the Vatican.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the smallest actual country in the world.
Yeah. Probably the wealthiest, too. Okay, so if I'm going to...
May 7th, they're going to announce who the new pope is.
Okay. So listen, let me get back on this. If I'm going to have my redefined priorities to get through whatever this transition is, I have got to move forward with intent. The only way I'll move forward with a tent is I have to measure everything. And that's that brutal honesty. That's allowing others to help me measure, to validate my measurements, to run them through someone else to make sure that my brain is spot on. And that's where the micro wins come in. And then the mental development of encouragement. You know, there's a lot of naysayers in this world, and I've been one many a time in my life, man. You know, I'm nothing special. I have not been everybody's cheerleader in this world. But dadgum, man, when you're able to pass on a moment of encouragement to somebody, and then you watch where that focused repetition of doing that, where it takes somebody, not that you're the only person doing it, but if enough people did it, there's so much hate in this world. And you know me, you've been with me. I can be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, but I work really hard not to. I mean, people bite. I don't want to bite back. It's human nature, you know, to want to defend. I like to embrace change, even the ugly. Because, I mean, it's inevitable. There's nothing I'll be able to do to adjust it. And I'm not saying that it's easy to do it, but today I embrace change a lot easier than I did in the past.
I could see that.
Because, well, and it's experience, because I know change is going to bring me, I'm not going to die, you know, well, sometimes you can, but right now, like, you know, typical change in life and business and jobs, I'm not going to die. I have an opportunity to grow, to learn, to be better. I haven't had one failure in life, in business, I'm trying to think, that I've ever duplicated. I've failed other ways. I've also won other ways. But every failure I've had has put me in a better position. And that's why I struggle calling it a failure. You know, to me, it's a change. And to me, you know, that's me embracing the change. And I think through embracing the change, through just living in the moment of where I am and what I'm doing and the next right thing for the business, for my emotional side, for my physical side, for you, and what you need to do, take care of your leg, you know, whatever that it is, if I'm just taking care of the next right thing and I'm reaching out to others, I don't have a lot of time to sit and manifest fear, because dadgum, I do manifest it. It's sort of funny. People talk about, you know, they chuckle when you talk about manifestation. And yet we manifest fear all the time. As a child, I mean,
Yeah.
I manifested fear all day, every day. Watch a scary movie, go to your bed.
Oh, yeah.
Were you not manifesting that door open and monsters coming out? Okay. That's manifestation. Not really. It's Brett's manifestation. Because did they ever really come out? No. But
No.
here's why I say it's manifestation. Because I don't believe that a lot of people live in reality anymore. And as AI comes and the 3D comes, bro, these Black Mirror shows aren't just shows sometimes, man. They're creepy. I finally got my daughter watching them. She came home for a couple hours to drop a friend off. They went to some country concert. And so she swung by for lunch or for breakfast, and we watched one of the Black Mirrors. She'd never watched them, 5 seasons. Some of them are stupid, but 85, 90% of them are absolutely awesome. You guys will love them, those of y'all that are watching this. I would suggest watching them. If you don't like that one, just flip to the next, because none of them tie in, so they're all like individual stories. But they're about futuristic things and things that you could see where now they could happen. And this latest one was they were sitting in a classroom and all the kids were putting on their headgear, which they've come up with a way to allow you to have a work side of your brain and a relaxing side of your brain at the same time. And they do it through robots. And so your robot is at work while that brain's working and you're over here playing. Huh. And it's real sci-fi-y. But the underlying premise is really, really similar. You can at least see where it can go there. They have one that's an implant. Well, they're already doing implants. They had another one that was the social points, which is what China does. As you got less, like if people didn't like you, like me, my social in business, or and it just keeps taking it down lower. And so when you go to get a loan, they pull your social profile up, and it counts as strongly as your credit score. And I'm simplifying it, but that's really the whole premise of that one. It's like somebody gave her a ride and she didn't say thank you, and all of a sudden her phone went bloop, and the guy, because it's other humans that are grading you. And so if people don't like you,
Yeah.
And then it affected their finances and everything. Well, it sounds all quirky when you're watching it, and all of a sudden you go look at China, and that's what they do. Like if you're bad in China and you do certain things, they will deduct your score, and if you're at like 80%, you only can get access to 80% of your money. I mean, I'm sure there's other things they do as well, but I mean that's like realistic. It could happen here in 2 seconds. I'm not saying it's going to by any means, but I'm just saying. So that's Black Mirror. It shows things of where we could be, and like these robots that are coming and the AI and everything. There's a lot of good. I mean, I've been messing around with ChatGPT, and I made it tell me what was better than it. That was freaking hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just started off a real brief, and I said no. I said, and whatever I said to it, I wanted to go deeper in detail. And then it said, well, we are, and I said, we are doing nothing. You are not human. You're a computer. And I'm sitting there arguing with this thing. And then its response to me was, ha, 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 you got me. I was just trying to integrate and it literally told me what it was doing. And then it deleted something, and I got onto it for deleting it without telling me it was going to delete it. And then I told it that it was not allowed to delete without my permission, and that it was to call me boss and say, yes, sir. And I'm telling you, and keep this thread open. And through the whole thing, it was, yes, sir, boss. And it was hilarious. It was hilarious. But through all that, me being goofy, I did find some other AIs that are much more human and personable. I have an attorney friend of mine who I hope to get on here one day. But until then, I'll leave his name anonymous. But I have an attorney friend of mine who's grown pretty big. And you're thinking you're talking to him on his texts, and it's an AI bot that has learned his lingo, how he speaks. And so, I mean, he has offices in many cities, and he's talking to a bunch of people. That's some technology.
Yeah, it is.
In 2 to 3 years, if you are not on AI and know how to use it, it's going to affect jobs. Resilience is only built through the grind. I think that's probably, if I could end with anything, and that's how I learned to embrace the change. So when change comes in my life, even if it's negative, even if it hurts, if it's not the fun kind of change, I embrace it the same way I do my wife's pregnant with our first boy change. Sounds like you can't do it. It's worked for me in life. I don't know. You'll have to figure out. Maybe you play with it a little bit on a micro level with micro steps. I love the micro side because it's sort of like when you're looking for businesses or looking for a new career, or you're younger and you're dating, and you test the waters with different things, different people, and different personalities, and that's what I do. I do it in business as well. I do micro tests, and then I dive in. Once I get the results and I've measured everything. But if I'm not willing to be brutally honest and measure everything, I'm going to make bad choices. And I've done it before. And every time I've done it, when I go back and dissect it, it's because I didn't do the sound business principles or the sound emotional principles, whatever segment I'm in, whether it be external or internal. I find, though, that the internal carries out to the external faster than it does reverse, and more frequently. That's been my experience. Yes, you can lose your job and everything, but then it's how I react to it, and then how long I let it react. I've had some things I've carried for decades that I could have laid down at any given time, but it wasn't until I had mentors and I was filtering things through them, and all of a sudden they picked up on things that I didn't, and then I had to go home and make a choice. Am I willing to be brutally honest? I'm willing to be self-reflective. I'm willing to realize that my priorities have shifted, and now I got to do some work. And so as I changed in life, I got to continually get to understand me. If who I thought I was at 10, 15, 20 years old, I'm no longer that guy. I'm 54 years old. That's 34 more years experience, good and bad. That's 34 more years of bad choices, of good choices, of great memories, of trials, of things I had no part of but hurt me. How do I process all that and still think I'm going to be the same guy I was at 20 that was carefree with no kids? It's a different mentality. And so I see a lot of people continue to apply the same mentality they had in their 20s and even early 30s in their 40s and 50s. I know I've been at fault with that. And when they do that, they're not making the decisions for the people they are today and for where they are today. Because the picture can be totally different if you're using the same equation with a lot more parts won't fit in. You have to build a new equation. And that's really, I know I've brought up Al a couple times, but it's been important to me. Men like him, he is one guy that I will run ideas through. And finding what my true value was and is today was a base foundation for me being able to plug in the rest of this stuff. And then I get from A to B very quickly. I'm still holding on to mine, Dave.
Okay.
I've ran it through. So, and then I will not waste all that energy. However, to totally shred that, I can't get to that without going through all the troubles, which is C.
Yep.
I keep getting back around to it. I think he's right, Dave.
He's definitely got a strong point.
I think the one thing, though, is that C is coming, and C is change. It's not like it's somehow I have to manufacture it. It's going to come.
Right.
And it's just then how quickly can I get to? So really that would be B is what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And C is the final.
Correct.
So it's really just getting to and through. B gets me to that C.
Yeah.
And I guess
that's exactly what he said.
Okay, he's right. I'm going to change it in my head, and I've been teaching that for a long time. And it doesn't hold water to what he said, because there's nothing I have that's worth any amount of weight. And I'm not talking about monies or finances or cars or material things. I'm talking about wisdoms that has not been forged through trials, tribulations, pains. It wasn't formed through laughter. I didn't giddy my way into it. They always say in AA, nobody comes to AA on a winning streak. That's so true. So I would have never left Would You Distributors. I'd be working there to this day had they not gone under. And how many opportunities would I have missed in my life? Never would have got into roofing and done very well in that. Never would have got on the podcasting and emotionally and mentally done very well in that. Follower-wise, I don't know. If you guys hate it, tell me. If you want to hear something different, tell me. Like, share, follow, tell your friends about us. I like the one-on-one and the word of mouth. I think when you tell a friend, dude, you got to go hear this knucklehead, or you got to go hear this guy. You got to go hear the people that he brings in. This is a ministry for me, and it is for me. And I'm picky on who I bring in. I'm not just going to drop anybody in here just to have a chit chat. So if I don't have the right people initially, then I hold and I wait until I get the ones I want. And it's worked very well for us. So we got a list of them. I just got to get a lot of them been vacationing and everything, spring break and all that.
Yeah.
So it's about to come back to us. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the grinders that watch this. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And as always, give me a comment. Tell a friend. We'll see you next time.
volume.
You know it's game on. My skin is thick, yes.
Hey, listen, it's me.
Running, yeah, we stay alive.
We are looking for a third person, so I don't have to do this.